The massive Zixari warship hung in space like a metal predator. Its dark hull absorbed the distant sunlight, making it seem like a hole torn in the fabric of space itself. Inside the command center, Admiral Korvex studied the blue planet on the main screen. "Such a small world," he said, his 4 arms adjusting controls on his command chair. "Yet our sensors detect unusual energy readings." His second-in-command, Commander Vishna, bowed slightly. "The Empire will be pleased with this discovery. 300 star systems under our control, and soon to be 301. The Zixari Empire had conquered every civilization they encountered for the past 8 centuries. Some surrendered immediately. Others fought briefly before accepting their place. None lasted more than a few days against the might of the Empire's fleets. "Send the diplomatic vessel," Admiral Korvex ordered. "Let us see what these creatures are like before we bring them into the fold." Captain Alex Morgan stood tall on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force vessel Defiant. The ship was humanity's pride, the fastest, most advanced warship ever built. But compared to the alien vessel that had just appeared near Mars orbit, it looked like a toy. "Status report," Morgan said, keeping his voice calm despite the tension filling the bridge. Lieutenant Samantha Hayes looked up from her station. "Sir, the alien vessel is sending some kind of transmission. It contains visual elements and audio patterns. I think they're trying to talk to us." Morgan nodded. "Put it on screen. And Sam, start recording everything. We'll need your language skills today." The screen flickered to life, showing a creature that looked nothing like any life form on Earth. The Zixari had gray-blue skin, 4 arms, and a face with 3 large eyes arranged in a triangle. It spoke in a series of clicks and humming sounds. Hayes worked frantically at her station, running the alien speech through the computer's analysis programs. "Sir, I can't translate everything yet, but they're requesting a meeting. They claim to represent something called the Zixari Empire." "Tell them we accept," Morgan said. "Standard first contact protocols. We come in peace, all that stuff." The meeting took place in neutral space between the 2 ships. Morgan led a small team in a shuttle, feeling both excitement and dread. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. The Zixari representatives were tall, nearly 7 feet, and moved with surprising grace despite their unusual body structure. Science Director Mexcar led their delegation. "We welcome you to the stars," Morgan said, using the carefully prepared greeting Earth's governments had approved years ago. "We represent humanity and the planet Earth. We seek peaceful relations with all species." Hayes stood beside him, her translator device working to understand the alien response. The Zixari science director examined the humans with all 3 eyes, focusing especially on their technology. "Your species is young," he said, the words coming through Hayes' translator with a mechanical quality. "The Empire is ancient and vast. We have come to evaluate your civilization." Though the words seemed diplomatic, Hayes noticed something in the alien's tone. She adjusted her translator settings, trying to capture more nuance. Morgan showed the aliens images of Earth, explained basic facts about human society, and offered friendship. The Zixari asked pointed questions about military capabilities, resource production, and population centers. When the meeting ended, Hayes pulled Morgan aside before they returned to their shuttle. "Captain, I don't think they're here for friendly contact," she whispered. Some of their untranslated communications mentioned conquest assessment and resistance potential. Morgan's face darkened. "Are you sure?" "Not completely, but I'm picking up patterns. They're sizing us up, not getting to know us." As the Earth shuttle departed, Science Director Mexcar reported to Admiral Korvex, "Their technology is primitive by our standards. Their weapons would barely damage our smallest vessels. They will make easy servants for the Empire." The Admiral nodded, his 3 eyes blinking in sequence. "Excellent. We return to the fleet. In 3 cycles, we come back with a battle group. Then these humans will learn their place in our empire." What none of the Zixari realized was that Lieutenant Hayes had decoded more of their language than they believed possible. As the alien ship disappeared in a flash of light, she was already preparing her report. Humanity had 3 weeks to prepare for war. 21 days after first contact, the skies above Earth filled with warships. The Zixari returned not with 1 vessel, but with 50. Their massive ships blocked out the sun in some areas, casting long shadows across major cities. In the United Earth Government Emergency Chamber, President Diana Wright stood before a table of grim-faced leaders. Screens around the room showed the alien fleet. Lieutenant Hayes' intelligence was correct, she said. They were never interested in peace. General William Carter pointed to a holographic display of the Zixari fleet. Madam President, our analysis shows their technology is at least 2 centuries ahead of ours. Their weapons could glass our major cities in minutes. Fleet Admiral Eric Sullivan nodded in agreement. The Earth Defense Force has only 30 ships. We're outnumbered and outgunned. The room fell silent. Humanity had prepared for this possibility, but facing it was different. President Wright straightened her shoulders. What are our options? We could surrender, someone suggested. Become vassals and survive. And how many tyrants in human history promised the same before slaughtering those who kneeled? Wright asked. Dr. Ryan Cooper cleared his throat. The head of Earth's Advanced Weapons Division rarely attended these meetings. Madam President, there is another option. All eyes turned to him. Project Nemesis, asked Admiral Sullivan. Dr. Cooper nodded. And the Aurora fleet. President Wright's eyes widened. I thought they were still theoretical. We accelerated development after discovering signals from deep space 8 years ago, Dr. Cooper explained. They're ready. General Carter looked confused. What are you talking about? Dr. Cooper activated his tablet, and new images appeared on the screens. Weapons and ships we've been developing in secret, not just improvements on existing technology, but entirely new concepts. Quantum phase torpedoes that bypass shields, eye-targeting systems that learn and adapt during battle, and a fleet of advanced ships hidden in the asteroid belt. Why wasn't the military informed? Demanded Carter. Because we hoped we'd never need them, President Wright answered. Weapons that could destroy a civilization should not be common knowledge. On the Zixari command ship, Admiral Korvax prepared to address the humans. His victory was assured. No species had ever successfully resisted the Empire. Open communications with their leaders, he ordered. The main screen showed President Wright standing tall in her office. Behind her hung the flag of the United Earth Government. People of Earth, Admiral Korvax began. I am Admiral Korvax of the Zixari Empire. For 8 centuries, we have brought order to the chaotic stars. Today, we offer you a place in our glorious empire. He paused for effect. Submit to imperial rule, and you will be protected. Resist, and you will be destroyed. You have 1 Earth hour to surrender your weapons, disband your military forces, and prepare to receive our representatives. They will explain your new duties as subjects of the empire. President Wright's expression didn't change. And if we refuse? Admiral Korvax's 3 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture of amusement in Zixari culture. Then you will join the list of extinct species who were too foolish to accept our generous offer. The transmission ended. Back in the emergency chamber, the military leaders argued about what to do. Some wanted to fight. Others said surrender was the only option to save lives. President Wright listened to all sides before making her decision. She pressed a button on the table. Connect me to the Zixari flagship. Admiral Korvax appeared on screen again. Have you made your decision so quickly? Wise choice. President Wright stared directly at the alien warlord. We have. Humanity has discussed your offer and reached a consensus. She glanced at Dr. Cooper, who nodded. Our answer is simple, Wright continued. Run. Admiral Korvax's translator took a moment to process the word. Explain this response. It's a warning, President Wright said. For your own safety, leave our system immediately. All three of the Admiral's eyes widened in shock, then narrowed in anger. You dare threaten the Empire? Your primitive weapons cannot harm us. Perhaps, Wright said calmly, but we would suggest you run anyway. The transmission cut off. Admiral Corvex turned to his command crew, his voice filled with rage. Prepare the fleet for attack. We will teach these humans the price of defiance. What the Admiral didn't know was that Earth's defenses were already activating, and something was stirring in the asteroid belt beyond Mars. Admiral Corvex stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as his fleet moved into attack formation. The human response had been unexpected. In 8 centuries of conquest, no one had ever responded to an ultimatum with such a simple, defiant message. Run. They dare tell us to run, he muttered. They will learn the price of such arrogance. The Zixari battle plan was simple and had worked on 100 worlds. First, destroy orbital defenses. Then, target military installations. Finally, strike population centers until surrender. Begin the attack, Admiral Corvex ordered. Target their orbital defense platforms. Bright beams of energy shot from the Zixari warships toward Earth's orbital defenses. The Admiral watched with satisfaction as the first human satellite exploded. As expected, he said, their technology is no match for. He stopped mid-sentence as something unexpected happened. Most of the energy beams were suddenly being deflected by an invisible barrier. What is this? He demanded. On Earth, Major Daniel Harris stood in the Planetary Defense Command Center, his hands flying across a control panel. Shield network at 87% capacity, he reported. All sectors holding. General Carter watched in amazement. The shield system works. Cooper's team actually did it. The shield was not perfect. Some Zixari weapons broke through, destroying several defense platforms. But the expected quick victory had turned into something else entirely. Admiral Corvex growled in frustration. Launch fighters. Target their defense grid control stations. Hundreds of smaller Zixari ships poured out of the larger vessels, heading toward Earth. They were met by Earth's own fighters, which seemed primitive by comparison. Yet something was wrong. Admiral, called a Zixari officer, human fighters are using unusual tactics. They're not following any known combat pattern. In space, Commander Nicole Richardson led her squadron against the enemy. Her fighters were smaller than the Zixari ships, but moved with incredible speed and unpredictability. Stealth systems engage, she ordered. Execute attack pattern Omega. The human fighters suddenly disappeared from Zixari sensors. When they reappeared, they were behind the enemy formation. Fire, Richardson commanded. Small, bright blue missiles shot toward the Zixari ships. When they hit, they didn't explode as expected. Instead, they seemed to phase through the Zixari shields before detonating inside. Quantum torpedoes working perfectly, Richardson reported back to command. Continuing attack. On his flagship, Admiral Corvex watched in disbelief as his fighter squadrons were decimated. Impossible, he whispered. Their weapons, they're bypassing our shields. The battle in orbit was not going as planned. The humans were fighting with unexpected skill and weapons the Zixari had never seen before. Bring the dreadnoughts forward, Admiral Corvex ordered. We will crush them with our main fleet. 3 massive Zixari dreadnoughts moved toward Earth. Each was the size of a small city, armed with planet-killing weapons. As they approached, they fired their main cannons at Earth's surface. The planetary shield absorbed most of the impact, but some energy broke through, creating explosions across the North American continent. Damage reports coming in, Major Harris reported. Shield network at 60% and dropping. Just as the situation seemed dire, Admiral Sullivan gave the order they had been waiting for. Commander Richardson, execute Operation Shadow Strike. Richardson's voice came over the comm. Understood. Shadow Strike commencing. Her squadron, joined by several others, suddenly changed course. Instead of defending Earth, they flew directly toward the Zixari dreadnoughts. What are they doing? Admiral Corvex demanded. They can't hope to damage ships of that size. As the human fighters approached, they launched special weapons that attached to the hulls of the dreadnoughts. These devices began to glow with strange energy. "Sir," a Zixari officer reported, "unknown devices are attached to our ships. They're hacking our systems." One by one, the massive dreadnoughts lost power. Their weapons went dark, and their engines failed. Admiral Corvex watched in horror as 3 of his most powerful ships drifted helplessly in space. "This cannot be happening," he said. "Order all ships to retreat and regroup." The Zixari fleet pulled back, leaving their disabled dreadnoughts behind. For the first time in centuries, Admiral Corvex had been defeated. As the Zixari ships retreated, President Wright watched from her command center. "They'll be back," she said quietly. "And next time, they'll be ready for our tricks." General Carter nodded. "But now they know. Humans aren't as easy to conquer as they thought." The victory celebration lasted exactly 1 hour. That was all President Wright allowed before calling her War Council back into session. "They'll return," she said, looking at the tactical display showing the retreating Zixari ships. "And they'll be angry." Admiral Sullivan nodded. "We bloodied their nose, but they have resources from 300 star systems. We have one planet." Dr. Lisa Bennett entered the room, carrying a tablet with data from the battle. As head of weapons research under Dr. Cooper, she had helped develop the quantum torpedoes that had proven so effective. "The good news is our weapons worked better than expected," she said. "The bad news is they'll adapt. The Zixari will modify their shields. Our current torpedoes won't work next time." "Can you improve them?" President Wright asked. Dr. Bennett nodded. "My team is already working on it. We need a week." "You have 3 days," Wright replied. "That's how long it will take them to repair and return." Across the room, Admiral Sullivan was studying the star charts. "We need to deploy the fleet strategically. The Defiant and 3 other ships to guard the far side of the moon. The Intrepid and my battle group will take position near Mars. We need early warning when they return." While the military leaders planned the defense, Colonel Frank Mitchell walked into the room. His Special Forces uniform was still dirty from training. "Madam President," he said with a quick salute, "my team is ready." Wright turned to the others. "Colonel Mitchell has proposed a daring mission. While we prepare for the next attack, he will take a small team to infiltrate one of the disabled Zixari ships." General Carter frowned. "That's extremely risky." "Yes," Mitchell agreed. "But we need intelligence. We need to know their next move, and possibly their weaknesses." After a brief debate, the mission was approved. Colonel Mitchell and his team of 5 soldiers prepared to board the smallest of the disabled Zixari dreadnoughts. That night, as Earth prepared for war, a small stealth shuttle approached the dark hulk of the Zixari ship. Colonel Mitchell led his team through a damaged section of the hull. They wore special suits that masked their heat signatures from any working Zixari sensors. "Move quietly," Mitchell whispered into his comm. "We don't know how many survived." The interior of the alien ship was strange. Corridors curved in unusual ways. The lighting was dim and bluish. The team moved carefully, avoiding the few Zixari survivors they encountered. "We need to find their command center," Mitchell said, "or a data terminal." After an hour of searching, they found what looked like a control room. Specialist Greg Powell, their tech expert, connected to a Zixari computer terminal. "I'm in," Powell said after several tense minutes. "Downloading their communications and tactical data now." Suddenly, they heard footsteps approaching. 2 Zixari officers entered the room, stopping in surprise at the sight of the humans. Mitchell and his team reacted instantly, stunning the aliens with non-lethal weapons. "Hurry," he urged Powell. "We might have triggered an alarm." "Almost done," Powell replied, his fingers flying over his device. "Got it." The team retreated the way they came, barely escaping as Zixari security forces converged on their position. Their shuttle detached from the dreadnought just as the first energy weapons fired in their direction. "We made it," Mitchell reported as they headed back to Earth, "and we have a treasure trove of information." The data from the Zixari ship revealed critical intelligence. The Empire had called for reinforcements from nearby star systems. But even more importantly, they discovered disagreement among the Zixari leadership. "Look at this," Powell said, pointing to a translated message. "Some commander named Vishna is arguing that attacking Earth was a mistake. He says the humans fight unlike any species we've encountered, and we should consider negotiation instead of further conflict." President Wright studied the information carefully. "So they're not united. We can use that." Meanwhile, in Dr. Bennett's laboratory, scientists worked around the clock to improve their weapons. The quantum torpedoes were redesigned to change frequency randomly, making them harder to block. New stealth systems were installed on more ships. Admiral Sullivan, aboard his flagship Intrepid, prepared the fleet for the coming battle. "All ships, this is Admiral Sullivan. The enemy will return soon, stronger than before. But remember this, we've already done what they thought impossible. We've beaten them once. We'll do it again." As the sun set on the third day after the first battle, Earth's sensors detected movement. The Zixari fleet had returned, twice as large as before. The real war was about to begin. The sky above Earth turned bright with weapons fire. The Zixari had returned with a vengeance, their fleet now twice the size of the first attack force. Admiral Corvex, humiliated by his earlier defeat, led from a new flagship that dwarfed even the massive dreadnoughts. "New attack pattern," he ordered his fleet. "They've had time to study our tactics. We will not underestimate these humans again." This time, the Zixari ships spread out into smaller groups, attacking from multiple directions at once. It was a strategy designed to overwhelm Earth's defensive shield by hitting many points simultaneously. Admiral Sullivan watched from the bridge of the Intrepid as the battle unfolded. "They've learned," he said grimly. "All ships, engage according to Plan Delta. Protect the shield generators at all costs." Earth's ships moved to intercept, but they were outnumbered. The improved quantum torpedoes worked at first, destroying several Zixari vessels. But the enemy had indeed adapted, their shields now shifting frequencies to counter the human weapons. "Sir," called a sensor officer on the Intrepid, "3 Zixari battle groups have broken through our line. They're heading for the North American shield generator." Sullivan's face hardened. "They found our weak point." On Earth, Major Harris watched in horror as the planetary shield began to fail. "Shield strength at 40% and falling," he reported. "We can't take much more of this." The Zixari pressed their advantage, concentrating fire on areas where the shield was weakest. Finally, with a flash of energy, sections of the shield collapsed entirely. "They're through," Harris shouted. "Shield breach over North America." Admiral Corvex watched with satisfaction. "Begin landing operations," he ordered. "Take the shield generator complex. Once it falls, the rest of their defenses will crumble." Hundreds of Zixari transport ships descended through the breach, landing troops across the North American continent. Their main force headed straight for the North American Defense Complex, where the largest shield generator was located. Captain Jason Ward stood at the complex's perimeter, watching the alien ships land. As commander of the ground defense forces, he had trained for this moment, but hoped it would never come. "They have better weapons and armor," he told his soldiers. "But we have something they don't. We're fighting for our home. Remember your training. Use the terrain. Make them come to us." The Zixari ground forces advanced confidently, their energy weapons cutting through buildings and vehicles. They moved in tight formations, using tactics that had conquered 100 worlds. But the humans didn't fight like other species. Instead of meeting the Zixari head-on, Ward's troops used guerrilla tactics. They struck from hidden positions, then melted away before the aliens could respond. They set traps and ambushes. They fought house to house, street to street, making the Zixari pay for every inch of ground. In orbit, the battle was going badly for Earth. The human ships were running out of ammunition, and many had been destroyed. Lieutenant Commander Olivia Parker's vessel, the Valiant, had taken heavy damage. "Engine room damage," reported her first officer. "Weapons at 20% capacity. Hull breach on decks 3 through 5. Parker looked at the tactical display. Her ship was badly hurt, but she could see the Zixari flagship, Admiral Corvex's command vessel, coordinating the attack. "Plot a course for the enemy flagship," she ordered quietly. "Ma'am," her first officer asked, shocked. "We can't take on that ship." "We're not going to fight it," Parker replied. "Set all remaining power to engines. Divert life support if necessary." Understanding dawned on the officer's face. "Commander, that's suicide." Parker nodded. "Send the crew to escape pods. I'll pilot the ship myself." "Not alone you won't," the officer replied, standing firmly at his post. "I'm staying." Parker looked at her loyal crew, all of whom refused to abandon ship. With tears in her eyes, she gave the final order. "Maximum speed. Target their command center." The damaged Valiant accelerated toward the Zixari flagship. The enemy noticed too late, trying to turn their massive vessel away. The human ship slammed into the alien flagship's bridge section, creating a massive explosion that tore through both vessels. Admiral Corvex had no time to react as his command center exploded around him. His last thought was of disbelief. How could these primitives fight so fiercely? With the Zixari command structure in chaos, their attack faltered. But on Earth, the ground battle continued. The shield generator complex was surrounded, with Captain Ward's forces making a desperate last stand. "Hold the line," Ward shouted as Zixari troops pressed forward. "Reinforcements are coming." Captain Ward ducked as energy blasts tore through the wall behind him. The Zixari were less than 100 yards from the shield generator complex now. His soldiers fought bravely, but they were being pushed back room by room. "How much longer can we hold?" asked his second-in-command. Ward checked his ammunition. "Not long enough." In the presidential bunker deep beneath the ground, President Wright received the grim reports. The death of Admiral Corvex had slowed the Zixari advance in space, but on the ground, they were winning. "The shield generator will fall within the hour," General Carter informed her. "Once it's gone, the entire planetary defense system will collapse." Wright looked at Dr. Cooper, who stood quietly in the corner of the room. "It's time," she said simply. Dr. Cooper nodded. "Project Nemesis is ready, but once we activate it, there's no going back. This technology, it crosses a line. We crossed that line when they threatened our extinction," Wright replied. "Activate it now." Dr. Cooper opened a secure channel to his laboratory. "This is Cooper. Authorization code Phoenix. 7 Delta. Deploy Nemesis. Repeat, deploy Nemesis." In a hidden facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, a team of scientists received the order. They looked at each other nervously before turning to a bank of advanced computers. "Nemesis activation protocols initiated," announced the lead technician. I-Core powering up. On screens around the room, lines of complex code began to flow. Project Nemesis was unlike any artificial intelligence ever created. It had been designed for one purpose only: to infiltrate and take control of enemy computer systems. In space, the battle continued as the remaining human ships fought desperately against the Zixari fleet. Without Admiral Corvex, the aliens had broken into smaller battle groups, each commander fighting their own war. Suddenly, something strange began to happen. "Sir," called a Zixari weapons officer on one of their destroyers, "our targeting systems are behaving erratically." Across the Zixari fleet, similar reports came in. Weapons fired without commands. Engines shut down and restarted randomly. Communication systems broadcast gibberish. In a matter of minutes, the confusion spread. Nemesis had infiltrated their network through the communication channels they used to coordinate their attacks. Now, it was taking control of their ships one by one. Most terrifying of all, some Zixari vessels turned their weapons on each other. A destroyer fired on the ship next to it. A battle cruiser launched its fighters against its own fleet. But Project Nemesis was only the first part of humanity's last resort plan. Beyond Mars, hidden in the asteroid belt, a signal was received. Massive engines powered up as ships emerged from their hiding places. These weren't ordinary vessels. They were Earth's secret fleet, built over the past decade in preparation for this very moment. Admiral Kelly Martinez stood on the bridge of the Avenger, the largest warship humans had ever built. Unlike the vessels fighting near Earth, these ships had been designed with one purpose: to match and defeat the Zixari technology. All ships, this is Admiral Martinez. The moment we've prepared for has arrived. Earth is under attack. Our orders are simple: save our homeworld, whatever the cost. 40 ships, each more advanced than anything the Zixari had seen from humans before, accelerated toward Earth. Their hulls gleamed with a strange metal that absorbed rather than reflected light. Their weapons were powered by energy systems reverse-engineered from studying deep space signals from the Zixari Empire years before first contact. Back at the shield generator complex, Captain Ward and his remaining troops prepared for what they believed would be their final stand. The Zixari forces had reached the outer doors of the main building. "It's been an honor," Ward told his soldiers as they took up defensive positions. Just then, his communication device crackled to life. "Captain Ward, this is President Wright. Hold your position. Relief is coming." Ward looked at his second-in-command in confusion. "From where?" As if in answer, the sky above the complex filled with the sound of thunder. But it wasn't weather. It was the sonic booms of ships entering the atmosphere at high speed. "What are those?" asked a soldier, pointing upward. Ward watched in amazement as sleek, deadly-looking craft descended through the clouds. They weren't Earth Defense Force vessels. They were something entirely new. "Those," he said with growing hope, "might just be our salvation." The Zixari never expected what happened next. The hidden fleet from the asteroid belt tore through their disorganized forces like a storm. Admiral Martinez's ships used weapons the aliens had never seen before, targeting the weak points in Zixari vessel design that Colonel Mitchell's team had discovered during their infiltration mission. On the ground, specialized dropships landed near the shield generator complex. The elite soldiers in advanced combat suits rushed out, cutting through the Zixari troops with ease. Captain Ward and his surviving forces watched in amazement as their enemies suddenly found themselves outmatched. "Who are you people?" Ward asked as a squad joined his position. "7th Special Combat Division," replied their leader. "We've been training in secret for 5 years, just for this day." Within hours, the tide of battle had completely turned. The combination of Project Nemesis causing chaos in the Zixari computer systems and the arrival of Earth's hidden military forces proved too much for the invaders. The remaining Zixari ships began to retreat, breaking orbit in a desperate attempt to escape. Some made it. Many did not. 3 days later, the last enemy forces on Earth surrendered. Humanity had won. In the grand meeting hall of the United Earth Government, President Wright addressed the representatives of all nations. The room was filled with both celebration and somber reflection on the cost of victory. "Today, we honor those who gave their lives to protect our world," she said. Lieutenant Commander Parker, who sacrificed, destroyed the enemy flagship. The brave defenders of the shield generator. The countless pilots and soldiers who fought against overwhelming odds. She paused, looking at the assembled leaders. "But our work is not done. The Zixari Empire still controls 300 worlds. The survivors of this battle have returned home with news of their defeat. We have humiliated them, and they will not forgive that easily." Admiral Sullivan stepped forward. "Our intelligence suggests they are already gathering a massive fleet. Not dozens of ships, but thousands. They plan to return and destroy Earth completely." Murmurs of concern filled the hall. Even with their hidden fleet and advanced weapons, humans could not hope to defeat such a force. "Which is why we must act first," said President Wright. "Captain Morgan, Captain Alex Morgan, who had first made contact with the Zixari, walked to the front of the hall. The Zixari rule through fear, he explained. The species they've conquered hate them. Our intelligence from Colonel Mitchell's mission confirms this. The news of our victory is spreading across their empire like wildfire. Already, there are reports of uprisings on 7 different worlds. President Wright nodded to Dr. Cooper, who activated a holographic display showing the Zixari Empire's territory. We will send our fleet not to attack the Zixari, but to make contact with these rebellious worlds, Wright announced. We will offer them alliance, technology, and freedom. Together, we will create something new, a galactic alliance of free species. The plan was approved unanimously. Within weeks, Captain Morgan led a diplomatic mission to the outer worlds of the Zixari Empire. As expected, they found populations ready to throw off their oppressors. One by one, worlds declared independence, protected by human technology, and united in common cause. The Zixari Emperor, faced with a crumbling empire, requested a meeting with human representatives. It was held on neutral ground, a small moon orbiting a gas giant, at the edge of what was once unquestioned Zixari territory. The Emperor, a larger version of his species with ceremonial markings on his gray-blue skin, glared at President Wright across the negotiating table. How? He demanded. How could one primitive world defeat the might of our empire? How could you turn our subjects against us so quickly? President Wright looked calmly at the alien ruler. Throughout human history, we warned each other about the dangers of provoking our species. We fought countless wars among ourselves, learning and growing stronger with each conflict. When you threatened us, we gave you the same warning we always gave each other. Run, the Emperor said, remembering the strange message. Yes, Wright nodded. Run. The wise listen. The foolish learn the hard way. The peace treaty signed that day did not end the Zixari Empire completely, but it reduced it to a fraction of its former size. The new Galactic Alliance grew rapidly as more worlds joined, attracted by humanity's promise to respect their independence and share technology freely. Captain Morgan, watching the stars from the bridge of his ship as they traveled home from the treaty signing, smiled to himself. Humanity had taken its place among the stars not as conquerors, but as liberators. And the galaxy would never be the same.